Zealand. I hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2509. Oh, we got a good topic today. We're talking about family letters as research sources. Have you ever wondered about that? And I have. Oh my gosh, this is just amazing. Actually, I think I'm going to just having myself notice something I need to do immediately after this. So family letters as resource, as research resource. Oh my gosh, every letter has a story. Every story adds to your family histories. The details you're looking for may be found in a letter. Don't overlook these treasures. Don't throw them out. Letters can reveal personal stories, relationships, emotionals and opinions, daily life, major life events, places lived, dates and timelines, occupation, military service, and so much more. And, what we need to consider and record is who wrote the letter, who was it written to, when was it written, where were they located, what can you learn, how does it fit into your family story? Save them, study them, share them. Family letters connect the past to the present and the future. And I have to tell you, if you find letters that were written from grandparents, great-grandparents, anything else, find a way to preserve them. They are stories of everyday life. And I will tell you this, that family letters are among the most personal genealogy records you can find. Next to a journal, family letters, because they're writing from one person to another, telling them about their day, about their life, about what's happening to them right there and then, the stuff that they're going through, what's going on at work, what's going on in their travels, what's going on during the war, things like that. Things that can get lost. And unlike birth certificates, census records, or official documents, letters were often written without any thought of future generations might one day read them. Without the thought. It was just in that moment, that person was sitting down and writing out their personal thoughts, feelings, everything. And this is what makes them so valuable. A family letter can reveal relationships between family members, daily life and routines, personal thoughts and opinions, family events and milestones. Maybe it was a birthday letter. Oh, that's what I should have bought in here. Oh, hang on. Not exactly sure where it is right now. Kind of sort of sure where it is. Just haven't unwrapped it yet. What was I up to on my list? Family events and milestones, addresses and locations, occupation and work life, military service experience, community connections, the challenges and the joys of ordinary everyday life. Sometimes a single letter can answer a question that years of record searching cannot. A passing comment may explain why the family moved. A letter home may reveal details about military service, stuff you won't find in records. A note tucked into a box may identify people in a photograph. Most importantly, letters help us hear the voice of the people we research. They transform ancestors from names and dates into real people with hopes, worries, humor, opinions, and stories of their own. Letters are them writing home stories of what's going on. If your family has old letters tucked away in a drawer, box, or album, take the time to preserve them. They may contain pieces of your family history that exist nowhere else. In fact, I will tell you, they will contain pieces of family history that exist nowhere else. There could have been, for example, I was one of the families I was researching yesterday had two stillborn children with no names, didn't know if they were male or female, and then it had two children that lived. The stillborn one, no idea if they're male or female. A family letter could turn around and say, oh, we heard that this couple had the baby. It was a little girl, but she didn't survive. Nowhere is that recorded, whether it's male or female, except for in a family letter. They may have even named the child. They may have named them a stillborn child, but it was not officially recorded. So there's these little details that you could find in family stories and stuff. And speaking of letters that have been published, this is a book my mum made up for me. See, it's got all these plastic sleeves in here. Tons of information. Blah, 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 blah. See all of this? These are letters written by Patty C. Eakins, who lived in the Manor House at Warboys, England from 1858 to 1889, and then in Cambridge from 1889 to 1899. There were very few of these books out. This one is a copy of the one that was owned by my great aunt. she allowed my mother to borrow it and copy it. So my mum made copies for us, and it's written on here. And she says, other books are known to be held by a resident in Warboys, once worked at the Manor House and in the library in Cambridge. Those are the only 3 copies known in existence. On the inside here, it's got, it says on the inside, it's even got a photo here of Patty, the author of the book, got a photo there of her. And it says on the other side, it says, to the dear memory of Patty C. Eakins, who after long years of suffering, born with sweet patience, entered into rest February 24th, 1899. Look at that in the book. We've got her death date. And was interred in Mill Road Cemetery, Cambridge, on February 27th. And then it's got a little quote here that says, he came and looked and took her by hand and lifted her up. And then it's got here the hymns. This hymn was one of the ones that she loved and the last she asked for. So there's actually a hymn here, written here. And then it's got the contents of the book. Part 1 is her life at Warboys from 1858 to 1889. It's got an editor's note. It's got a picture of this is a very grainy picture of the church. And then this is the manor house here. This is the church. And then this is the manor house right here. In Warboys. The manor house is still there very much. But then it goes on to copies of her letters and everything else, all dated. It talks about her childhood. It actually gets into her letters at some point in here. It's been a long time since I've read this. We don't actually know who some of these letters are going to. That's the thing. Oh, the following letters, unless otherwise notified, were written to Patty's devoted sister cousin, Alice M. Eakins. Now, Alice M. Eakins actually travelled to New Zealand with my second great grandmother, Clara Ann Harper, who travelled over to meet up with her brother in New Zealand. And she brought with her my great grandfather, Harry Harper Eakins. And they lived, and the family moved to Wanganui and lived there for many years. And when in 1893, when they had the women's suffragette petition being signed, my great grandmother Clara Harper Eakins actually signed it. And when you see the image of it signed, here's all the lines on the page, and right down at the very bottom corner below the bottom line is her signature. So very proud of my great grandmother for that. And it said that it has been very difficult to render them interesting on account of the necessary suppression of much of the purely personal, as of course they were not written with any view to publication. Crippled and suffering from chronic condensation, it is hoped that they may yet be vigorous enough to tell the story of my sister's uneventful life to the friends that no more meet her, but will let her written words sometimes spare the claret. And like it's got one here, dearest, and that'll be to Alice M. Eakins, from the Manor House in November 16th, 1879, and they were already in New Zealand at that point. Hang on. So 1885 and 1875, they travelled out. Now I'm questioning my own thing. But anyway, it says, dearest, I thought perhaps you might like to have a note from me. In 6 weeks, you'll be coming home, I suppose. I hope we shall see ever so much more of each other this Christmas. I have been wondering if amongst all your other lessons, you have learned to love the Lord Jesus yet, or if you only want to. I know at school there is not much time for letter writing, or I would ask you for a note. But we can talk at Christmas. Dearie, if we both want to love the Lord Jesus, and I will tell you, this time is very much a thing, we shall be truer friends, shall we not? I often wonder why it should be so difficult for us to give up all of our lives to him. He gave his own life for us freely. There is a lot of talk of religion and Christianity in these letters, because that's what the topic of the time was. He gave his own life for us freely for us, and yet we cannot make up our minds to keep nothing back, but just to say with dear Miss Havergal, no idea who Miss Havergal is, take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. Will you take this as my message for you this week, and whatever you are doing, in the name of the Lord Jesus? Warboys has not altered at all. That's the manner. and the town it was in. My library keeps up well, and so does the Sunday school. The bells are ringing for evening service, so I must close hastily. And in every letter, she mentions something about Christianity in there. And it's just pages and pages and pages of letters over the years. And you see the difference in her writing as the years go by and things like that as well. It's been a long time since I have read these. I will sit down and go through them again. But what my mum did at the back of this book, which is really cool, is that when they visited the manor house years ago, the guy gave them a flyer. This is a copy of the flyer here, listing who who owned the house and when. And the earliest people that they have, the first mention of Manor War Boys is as a gift of the Archbishop Dunstan of Ramsey Abbey in 974. This was confirmed by King Edgar in 974, Edward the Confessor, William the Conqueror in 1077, William III in 1334, Pope Alexander in 1178, and Pope Gregory in 1229. How cool is that? The only evidence of the building situated here were traces of what were probably the tithe barn on the lawn behind the West End church. Then it goes into who owned it when. And my family, my ancestors had the house in the late 19th century. The Eakins were tenants of the house and farm. It doesn't actually list the years. Doesn't actually list them. But then these are photos that they took of the manor house when they were there, the different angles and things. Like this is the gate going into the manor house. This is the driveway. This is the church. The church is in the front, and then the manor house goes around, wraps around behind it. And the barn, the church and the barn. Sorry, the manor house and the barn. The church is basically in the front yard of the manor house. Is how close it is. But these are some thorns in your letters. Now, I came across this guy on TikTok. I haven't looked into anything yet, but I have it written down, and it's called My Darling Letters. That's his handle on TikTok. What this guy has done is he discovered 160 letters that were written between his grandmother and his grandfather during World War II. They met for an hour and then exchanged all their letters, and when they met again, they got married. And so he's taken these letters and created a coffee table book, which is coming out soon, is my understanding. And his father, who is the child of the grandparents, has painted these plates to go in this coffee book to go with the different letters and things. That is a phenomenal way of preserving that history. And he's only printing a certain number of books. And I thought it's absolutely brilliant. And so I wrote myself a note to see if I can contact him and get him on the podcast and talk about this journey that he's been on and what it's taken and what he's done. And I've loved watching the TikToks of him putting these books together with the letters. And it's a coffee table size book. And I'm curious to see it more and maybe even get a copy of it. I don't know. But somewhere in my boxes of books, I also have letters, a book of letters that were written over time by different famous people. It's got copies of a copy of their letter in there, and it's a book just made up of letters written by different people over the years and generations and things. But letters are a phenomenal way to get to know a person, because at that time they were just writing letters with no intent, just writing a letter from themselves to a relative, a friend, or whoever. And it was just personal letters. Generations later, publish it. I'm in two minds about publishing them. It depends on the contents of the letters. I mean, but as far as I know, here's my thought on, I'm in two minds about this. One, it's something personal that was written from somebody to somebody else, very personal messages and everything else. Two, it is a great resource because they go, I have heard of this, and I've heard of that. We are moving from this town to this town. And they may put in there why, whereas nowhere else can we find why they did that. And so when those sort of letters come out, those are the ones that I think could be published for family use only. It's not put out there to be published out into the world for everybody to read. It's just, hey, like my mum did with this book, just took a copy of it, put it into these archive protective pages, plastic cover pages and stuff. And you can see there's a lot of letters in there. And that's just something for family research. And I can go through those and pull out family information and things. but it's not a book for publishing for public reading. So you can publish a book and just have it so that you publish a book yourself and you give copies to, to family members for Christmas as Christmas gifts. This is why when those families that meet on a family reunion every year, do the recordings, go around with the phone, have somebody videotaping things, put them all to take all of that information, the stories that were recorded, put them into a book, any letters, any stories that were told, transcribe them, have them in the book as well, have QR codes that go to private videos on a YouTube channel where everybody can watch that video or hear that recording. And then do that every year and send it out as Christmas gifts for everybody, and have a hatch, match, and dispatch area. Think about hatch, match, and dispatch. Who was born since the last family reunion, who got married since the last family reunion, who died since the last family reunion. Have pages to honor those people in there. That way people have a book every year and they can follow the family history. They can see it expand and decrease. They can see it breathing with life. You got the hatch, the match, and the dispatch. And that's the blood of that's the heartbeat of the thing. But doing every time you have a family reunion, do a recording. Record people, record stories, have people do short videos, tell stories. If they don't want to be on video camera, audio record it. You can still put those up on YouTube and and create QR codes that go to just that video and put them in the book. So they just scan the QR code and up comes the video. That's great. You can put the link there if you want to, if they want to sit down and type the link. In some cases, it's good to put that, and just have that for family members only. Do the same with the letters. Publish it as a book for family members only. And then you've got those where the letters get put into a public thing for the public to read. And there's certain instances behind that, like it could be a famous person with their letters. I have a book somewhere that were letters written by some duchess. And I can't even think. I can see the cover. It's blue. It's a blue cover on it. A woman standing there and she's the duchess of something. Can't remember what she's a duchess of. But I have those, and those were letters that she wrote. But yeah, so look at that. And if you want to go and check out My Darling Letters on TikTok, just go check out some of his videos and things. It's a beautiful story of him putting together these letters that his grandparents wrote to each other. It's a beautiful love story that he is putting out there for everybody. And he said they met for an hour, wrote 160 letters, and when they met again, they got married. During World War II. Yeah, it's a great story. So with that, go have a look and see what letters that you have from past generations and what clues could be in those that help you with your family tree research. That's your task for today. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hey,